You sound great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, coaches, welcome back. It's Mad Dog's Coaches Kennel. Really pleased to have just such an impressive young coach on the broadcast today. It's Justin Ratanataya, and he is a second-year student assistant at Longwood University for the women's program. I've had the pleasure of knowing Justin for over 2 years since he was in high school. He reached out and, explained his coaching dreams, and I'm just blessed to be a small part of his journey. So, Coach, really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So to start us off, I just, there's so many young coaches that have reached out to me, and a number of those are still in high school. Reminds me a lot of your journey as of, 2-3 years ago. Tell us, the student assistant, student manager route, what's a typical day like? And I know every day is different, but if you could just kind of lay out what a day for you is like sometimes.
Yeah, well, like you said, every day is different, and it kind of depends on whether I'm on my Monday, Wednesday class schedule, or Tuesday, Thursday. So, and depending on what we have going on that week, it's kind of how I judge it. But typically I get up around sometimes 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and I'll usually get to the gym around 7:15, 7:30, start the laundry from the night before, and just kind of hang out in there, get stuff done around the gym, and kind of just get working on my schoolwork ahead of time. And then I'll put the laundry and kind of get that done before I go to class, and then head off to class. And then in between my classes, I head to the office and get whatever work done I need to get done there, and just kind of go throughout the day. And then if I have time, I make some meetings.
Got you, my man. So how many hours, first of all, how many hours a week would you say, as an invested guy who wants to get into college coaching afterwards, how many hours a week do you think you dedicate to the program? And then also, is it everything that you thought it was going to be? What are some of the differences maybe?
Yeah, I think for the hours, that's a tough one. It's a lot. I can tell you that. I can't give you a definite number on that, but I can tell you it's a lot for sure. And yeah, it's everything I thought it was going to be and more. So obviously, like you said, I'm a student assistant. So technically, in the NCAA's eyes, there is no such thing as student assistant. So like, that's just something my coach did because she knew I wanted to get into coaching. So she lets me do a lot more coaching, do a lot of things in the office. And I actually just started a thing called Joy Clips. And I actually get to break down that to practice breaking down film, which is awesome to me. So to work for such a wonderful head coach and a staff in general is just awesome. So it's more than I could expect it to be. And then just learning from the men's program as well and seeing them every day as well has helped me as well.
Yeah, I tell you what, Coach, I'm so impressed with just the level of sweat equity. It's obvious that you have built up with the staff, and on social media, watching you be so involved in the intricacies, the day-to-day of what the team actually sees. I'm glad that you mentioned, you've got those film duties. So any young coach that's looking to get into the game, if you're a student manager, even if you're a high school player now, you're dreaming about being a college player. That's what I wanted to be. Wasn't good enough to do it in the long run. That's okay. One thing I would have done, and Justin, you can speak to this as well. I don't want to speak for you, but I would have tried to learn some of the computer programs from some of my mentors, guys or women that were coaching in college at the time. I think Coach here is getting, he's getting a full dose of that, and just couldn't be happier for you. Coach, I wanted to transition into, you talk about how close your relationship with the staff is. And it's very evident, having attended a couple of the games, watching you interact, how much they value your role there, but also your expertise. How, looking forward, trying to project forward just a little bit in your career, 3 years from now, you're going to have a degree from Longwood University. How are you using the relationships that you have now, whether at Longwood or other staffs, to network to try to place yourself in a nice position once you do graduate?
Right. And obviously, like, every coach you talk to, or even whatever profession you go into now, especially like everybody will use the term networking. I personally, like I'll say it, but I personally don't like that term. I like the term building relationships. And somebody, I was talking to an athletic director the other day, and they told me, be the director of love and love people. And I think that's so true and so genuine. And I know that'll kind of get off topic a little bit, but in order to build those true authentic relationships to get to where you want to be, you have to keep pouring into them and actually just checking them on a daily basis. So for example, Christmas is tomorrow, New Year's is coming up. So I'm gonna scroll through my phone and I'll send out text to some of the coaches I'm really close to. You'll probably get one as well. And just say, Merry Christmas and hope all is well. And that's just staying in touch. And obviously just staying in touch through social media. And you never want to ask anybody for anything. I never ask anybody for anything. The only thing I'll ever ask for them is to help somebody else that I've come paths with that asked me to mentor them. So I think last year I connected you with a few people and might have reached out to you. So I'll never ask you for anything, but I'll ask you to help other people, which to me isn't me asking for stuff. So as long as you can help other people and pour into them, people will see your work ethic, I think, at the end of the day. And I know that kind of goes off topic, but I think that's the first step. And then just obviously learning as much as you can and soaking it up. And then your work at the end of the day will speak for itself.
Coach, how old are you?
I'm 20. I'll be 21 in February.
All right, everybody watching this, I don't care if it's Christmas of 2021 or June of 2025. This young man is wise beyond his years. So I want to echo those sentiments, Justin, about pouring yourself into people and building real relationships. You know, you hear the generalities of, okay, you've got a network. Well, one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got in my journey was from the man who ended up hiring me in my first college basketball position, Duger Balcom. He said, you know, the main thing is having real relationships that aren't fake. It's better for you to have 5, 6, 7 of those and really know those people, and they really know you, and they know that you would do anything for them, than to have, you know, 100 people in your phone that you've barely contacted. They really don't know you. So wise words there. I appreciate you sharing that, you know.
And I think too, like you and people have told me this over and over, like you have to be yourself. You can't fake it. Like people are going to be able to read through it. Like you may know a lot of people, I may know a lot of people, but at the end of the day, like I only have 10 or 15 people that I can literally pick up my phone, call them. If they don't answer, they'll call me back and I can just talk to them, and not even talk to them about sports. I can talk to them about life or if I need anything. And some of those different people don't even
Having a little bit of technical difficulties here. I can see you moving around now. Can you hear me, Coach?
Yeah, can you hear me? I think I fixed it. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. No worries. This isn't some professional, you know, deal. So I'm okay with real life. You know, my daughter might start crying. The dog might be running down here. That's okay. The main thing is, however long it takes, we get this great information from you. But go ahead if you remember the train of thought that you were on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think like we may know a lot of people, like I was saying, and I don't know really when it cut off, but like I only know at the end of the day 10 or 15 people that I can pick up my phone with, that I've gotten to become really close friends with, that I can just call whether they answer or not, and they'll call me back. And that's talking about life in general, sports beside the point. Like we all work in the sports field. It's no different whether you are a soccer coach, administrator, football coach, whatever. Like you can always learn from somebody, but for you to pick up the phone and just be able to talk to them, just get life advice in general is just so crucial. And I think it's something special if you can build relationships with people in the sports industry.
Well, definitely. I've got to tell you, you know, in your young coaching career, second year in a college program, I just hear nothing but really rave reviews about you. And I say that not to blow smoke up your butt, but I'm a big believer in, okay, you are what people say about you, right? Like they're all, if
Right.
you do enough stuff in your life, they're always going to be a random hater here or there. But in general, the sentiment that people say about how you make them feel, that's really how you're perceived. And I got to tell you, I've never heard anybody say anything negative about you. So that's a compliment to you. Um, you are yourself, you're comfortable in your own skin. And I'm interested to hear kind of how you got to that point. For me in our relationship, I was always so impressed with the fact that you reached out at such a young age. So if you don't mind sharing with the listeners, the viewers, what your high school basketball experience was like.
Right. So obviously mine was like unique, and I know we'll probably get to this later on in the interview, but so with my circumstance, I have cerebral palsy, so I couldn't play. So I know I love sports, and for a time I was going to step away. But what actually drew me in was my twin sister. She still played high school basketball, and I kind of enjoyed it going to her games. And at the time, she actually wasn't playing, but the coach she was going to play for was coaching the game, and I was like, "Hey, you need help?" And he was like, "Sure." So I just kept stats for him. Really enjoyed it, and then soon after, my sister came to join, and I just was like, "Well, this is cool." And so if I could, my thought was if I could mentor people and help out and learn as much as possible, I said that's cool. So I want to do that at the next level. So from that moment on, and at that point, I think that was my sophomore year. So I'd been networking and building relationships for about a year and a half now, and I just really loved mentoring people, pouring into their lives, and I wanted to become a college basketball coach. So I kept drilling in day in, day out to become that, working hard. I did everything on the athletic side, aside from basketball in high school, to get me to that point, whether it was volleyball, basketball, soccer, whatever. I would help out with all those coaches so I could learn everything, because all sports tie into one another. And then my train of thought was, not in a selfish way, but I need high school sports not to run without Justin. So if I leave, they shouldn't be able to run. And that's not a selfish thing. That was just me knowing that I was good at my job and could do it at the next level to reassure it. So I did that and just worked day in and day out to work my way up the ladder, and still am working my way up a ladder as I'm only a sophomore. So
Oh, that's awesome, man. I mean, you really had a vision, and I like how you talked about you were involved in other sports as well, because really, if you're in it for, the betterment of young people in the long run, it's kind of all the same. I've always looked at basketball more as a
right,
metaphor, something. I love the game, but I'm more interested in helping the people that play the game. You come across
right,
as somebody who's like that as well. So I want to hear, I get emails all the time, phone calls, texts all the time from young coaches that, hey, I'm interested in being a student manager in college. And they have no idea, the proper steps or what someone's journey is. How do they get into that? So I want to hear about your particular journey. Once you were accepted at Longwood and knew that you wanted to be a part of a program, what were the steps you took? Who did you reach out to? What were the timing? All of that good stuff. I think that'd be really valuable for the viewers.
right. So when I got accepted in Longwood, my original plan was to go on the men's side. That was my whole plan: men's side, men's side, men's side. And I kept reaching out to them, writing handwritten letters. And I think I circled back around with you a couple of times. It's like, hey, can't get in touch with them. And my AD had tried to reach out with them because he knew one of them as well, and just couldn't get in touch with them. And one night, I think at like 12 a.m., I came across one of our women's coaches on Twitter. And I just followed her, and I shot her email literally at 12:15 at night. She responded by 12:30. We were on the phone the next day, and this was over quarantine, so nobody had nothing to do. And got on the phone, was just talking to her and told her my situation and my aspirations. And then a few weeks later, I reached out to somebody. His name is Jimmy at the Naval Academy on the women's side, and just was talking to him, and he was asking me where I was going to school. And I told him Longwood. Well, he worked with Coach Tillett at Navy when she was the associate head coach before she came to Longwood. And so without me even saying anything, I was talking to him. He was like, before we hung up, he said, "I'll call her for you." And at that time, I couldn't get in touch with her. I'd written her a handwritten letter, um, written her an email and stuff like that, multiple emails to her. And I think their associate head coach, Tiffany Sarden, who's now at Chicago State, and couldn't get in touch. And he was like, "All right, I'll call her for you." And so I hung up with him. He called her, and within 15 minutes later, like, or an hour, she texted me, and we're on the phone in the next 2 days. And she said, "I'll offer you a student assistant position, and you can help coach, and we'll help you reach your goals." And from ever since then, talked with her, connected with her on different levels, and now just kind of growing through that. And it's just before that, even to go back, I think the first person at Longwood I reached out to wasn't even a basketball coach. It was our deputy athletic director. And I just reached out to him because at the time I didn't know if I wanted to go the administration route or the coaching route, but I knew somebody would get me there. So reached out to him. He contacted the men's staff, still couldn't get in touch with him. Reached out to our AD because I knew that was important, whatever route, to speak with her. So I reached out to her, reached out to our associate AD, who was actually a longtime women's coach, just kind of just getting the ball rolling. And that way, my goal was everybody knew Justin before Justin got in there. So I think that was important to me to get the ball rolling, and then just writing handwritten letters kind of pushed it along. And I think a lot of people, especially in today's age, really like handwritten letters. I love handwritten letters, and I'm 20 years old, but I think it's like the coolest thing in the world.
I love that, man. Like, so every young coach, even if you're not young, but you're trying to break into the business, listen to what coach just told us, right? Contacted so many people, and you have to get used to, I call them their no's, but what it really is just, it's a no response, right? You got to get used to those no responses and just wipe them right off your back, right? Coach Relentless wanted to try to get in on the men's side, probably sent whatever 15, 20 emails, different people couldn't, circled back, couldn't get in touch with them. He reaches out. The way that he gets in touch with Coach Tillett is by somebody that she used to work with at the Naval Academy. So my point is that Coach R here is in the position that he's in partly because he's relentless, and you absolutely have to do that. I admire that about you, Justin. Encourage you to keep, pounding that message in. Thanks for telling us about your journey to becoming. Go ahead.
And I will say, I don't mean to cut you off. Obviously, some of that is timing too. So like during that time, we were all it was at the beginning of the pandemic. So nobody had anything to do. Everything was literally shut down. So obviously when you're reaching out to people, you want to be timely. Like I'll still reach out to people in the middle of the season, but like I'm not going to connect with them till March or April, till the time the Final Four rolls around. So I think you have to be strategic in your timing, sending emails or DMing them on Twitter if their DMs are open, saying, "Oh, good luck today," or "Happy birthday." Like I sent somebody a happy birthday and he just gave me his number. And just off that, because it was in my bio that I want to be a college coach. So I think being strategic in your networking time to when you reach out to people is important. And obviously when I was in high school, I didn't understand it because, in high school, you really think, oh, nobody else is busy. And then you get into college and bam, it's like, oh, you really don't have time to think or breathe. And so I think that plays a key part in it too. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're reaching out to people.
I love that perspective. It is something that's very strategic, but you have to be accustomed to, not hearing back, maybe, especially from the people that you feel like you need to hear back from right away, and just keeping at it. It paid off for you, obviously, in spades. Now, I want to talk about your relationship with Coach Tillett. First and foremost, everybody watching this is 2021 Christmas time. Rebecca Tillett is a coaching mastermind. She's at Longwood, first year there. They were 11th in the conference. Obviously, when you get a new job, it's going to be a tough situation. They were 11th, jumped to 8th the next year. Last year, they were 3rd in the Big South. And this year, I've seen a couple of games of theirs. I've watched probably 5 or 6 of their games. They are every bit, they're going to fight for a conference championship in the Big South. So my point is, you're working under somebody that's just amazing. So I want to know about your specific relationship with Coach Tillett, and where do you see that going as time progresses at Longwood? What do you want that picture to look like by the time you graduate?
Right. I think my relationship with her is awesome. Like, depending on your head coach and like how open they are, like my head coach is really open. So from the moment I spoke with her on the phone in May, from the time I got to Longwood, like I knew I wanted to be a head coach. She knew that. So she'll joke around sometimes and she'll be like, "Oh, Justin, when you become a head coach, this is what you'll have to deal with," and stuff like that. And she'll give me responsibilities sometimes that head coaches will have to deal with, or she'll call me in her office and be like, "Hey, when you're a head coach, you'll have to deal with this. I'm walking through this situation right now. I want to show you what it's like." Or here's, you have to loop this person in, this AD in, and this person in, so you don't get, you keep everybody in the loop essentially. So I think our relationship is really good, and I think progressing in the next 2 years until I graduate will become even better. And I think it just goes to show how much faith she had in her former coworker before I even stepped foot on campus. The faith that she had in me and Jimmy had in me to not even meet me, and then for it to progress years over years, and then even when I go into coaching after I graduate from Longwood, hopefully I'll rejoin her staff once I graduate in 2024. But I think it'll just continue to grow, and I love working from her. She allows me to draw up plays sometimes, break down film, whatever the case may be, and I can just pick her brain and ask her questions. But not even about that, like life. We have a lot of similar medical battles, so that too is important to both of us. So I think just relating to her on that side of things is important, and it's a special bond we share.
Man, that's fantastic. Something that resonates with me, what you said was immediately upon being hired, you told her from Jump Street, I want to be a college basketball coach. So anybody that's interested in that goes the student manager route, I encourage you to mimic what Justin has done in his journey and put that out there in the universe, right? I want to do this because head coaches, assistant coaches, they need to know that. They can't just read your mind. Certain programs, I know on the men's side, they may have 10 student managers. So they're going to delegate certain tasks to you, but they need to know that you want to coach, right? You're willing to come in the extra hours and go, watch the film. You've done such a nice job with it. They have you cutting up film, but that's the progression that you need. Coach, I wanted to hear a little bit about Longwood's player development side. What is your role with the assistant coaches during the off season on that part? And, are you able to work with guards or posts, maybe a little bit of both? Just kind of touch on the player development in your experience so far.
Yeah. So obviously, like once the season ends, you have to take 2 weeks off, and I've never had a traditional off season with COVID and everything, but you kind of just go throughout it, and you have 8 hours, I think is the limit. So you're not in there a lot, but traditionally, if they have position breakdown, that's more in the preseason for us at least. I'll go in there, I'll rebound. Sometimes I'll pass. Usually, I just try to soak up it all. So whatever I can make based off my schedule, I make all of it. So I'll rebound. I'll give feedback to the players back, and then more so in the individual, like one-on-ones, I'll give feedback to them there. And that's just me just trying to learn from the coach. And then obviously they can ask me to rebound for them, and I just give them workouts, and they know that too. But my thing is, and I tell them that from the jump, like in our first team meeting, if you want to get in the gym, text me anytime you want, day in, day out. I'll drop whatever I'm doing to rebound for you and help you get better. But I said, under one condition, I'm not going to text you. So don't ever come to me saying, "Oh, Justin, let's get in the gym. I thought you were going to text me." No, if you're a D1 athlete and you're a grown adult, number one, to begin with, if you want to get better and perfect your craft, you can text me. I said you need to take responsibility. So that's my standpoint. I think, and my coaches know that, and my head coach knows that, and they all know that. And I think our coaches take that too, to a certain extent. Like, they have the same rules. Obviously, preseason's a little different because you have to get in the gym. You have to have individuals. So I think it just kind of depends. I'll do whatever they ask, pass, rebound, play defense, but it just varies on like the group year in and year out. And then kind of what you're doing in that week to get better.
Gotcha. It sounds like you're getting a really well-rounded experience. You talk about soaking up all the knowledge from, Coach Tillett, but also the assistants. Um, I think the group here is also, interested to hear about other coaches or mentors. We've talked a little bit about our relationship, which I love, and I know that we're going to continue to have one. Who are some of your mentors in coaching that aren't a part of Longwood's staff, and what do you lean on? Your support tree, the limbs. How heavily do you lean on certain people for what? Just interested to hear about that.
Right. And I know you said in coaching, but I actually lean on a lot of people outside of coaching too that are still in the sports business. So whether it's I have a friend that works for a nonprofit, and then I have friends that work in the administration side. So I lean on them a lot. But some of my people that are trainers in Charlottesville, Damon Altizer and Marcus Dixon. If you don't already, you should follow them on social media. They put out a lot of great content for sure, and have a lot of great people. And their camp is like the best camp in the world that I've ever worked. But I think I'll reach out to them to get drills for our players to just talk about life. I mean, Marcus is a fellow Longwood alum, so we have that in common. So I think that, and then one of my really close friends is Eric Dero. He actually just got a job with the women's staff at Texas Tech. He was at Abilene Christian, but I'll reach out to him about social media stuff, synergy stuff, but even like just life in general, and just talking to him about his family, his journey, and stuff like that. And then I have a friend that I'm close with on the men's side at UVA, so I'll call their staff sometimes and get close with them and just kind of pick their brain and like what it's like, what they're going through, and just stuff like that. And I think it's important too, as we're talking about that, to lean on people outside of coaching, because people can get what's the word I'm looking for? Different perspective.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, different perspective, I think. So like my friend, he's the director of communication at Virginia Tech. He was at Radford, but he likes it. He was the video coordinator for Virginia Tech's women's team last year, and so we kind of bonded over that. But just talk about that. And going back to earlier, I was talking earlier this week to an athletic director. I think it's important, like you said, you want to reach out to a lot of people, but you want to reach out to people you have in common, stuff you have in common too. So like that match your values. So my values is family and faith, and I want to win basketball games. But so like I'm not gonna go reach out to people that kind of don't fit my values, or like you were a student manager. I'm a student manager. So like things that you can find in common with people, I think is important when you're networking and reaching out to people to catch their eye, per se.
I love that. That's such, valuable advice, I think, for other young coaches to reach out to people, not just in the basketball world, but outside of the basketball fraternity, to get that different perspective. And I will say, I live in the state of Virginia. Damon Altizer and Marcus Dixon are phenomenal. I'm going to put their Twitter handles in the description of this video. And like Coach said, just really encourage you to follow them. Seem like great people as well. I don't know them well personally. I know you do, Coach, but couldn't recommend better people on the basketball side too, for drills, for motivation, all that good stuff. I want to say that Coach Altizer, is he at St. Anne's Belfield?
He is. They both are.
They both are. Okay. And I know, individual small group training too, that's just, you're not going to find better. So I'm glad that you said that. Justin, I want to, I was fortunate enough to broadcast a Longwood women's game on ESPN Plus against American University, and it was Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day. And I want to, first of all, thank you, but also applaud the courage that you've shown to stand up for the cause and to kind of be, a face of this thing. I want to learn more and hear your thoughts on how things are going with the fundraising, the background, and how that all came about.
Yeah, so I know I touched on it earlier in the interview. Obviously, I have CP, and I think in September, my coach approached me back about doing a medical awareness game for it, because we're kind of big on raising awareness for different topics and stuff like that. So she approached me with that, and I said, okay, that sounds awesome. So kind of ran with it, and kind of just time flew by, and it came, and we close to raised over $1,800. I think we're close to our goal now, and so all those donations will go directly to the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. And I think it was a lot of fun for me. They interviewed me. I was able to share my story, and then they got Coach Tillett's perspective on that. So it was cool to see it, and then all the coaches that are in my corner on social media, and to see obviously I am doing something right, and obviously share my story, and just seeing the impact I have on their lives was cool, which is ultimately why I wanted to get into coaching. So to see them retweet it and raise awareness to it that way. And I'll tell you a quick little story. So I know I mentioned Eric Dero. So he was at ACU, and so now he's at Texas Tech, but his former colleague, he retweeted it, and his former colleague saw it and he retweeted it, but he said his sister has CP as well. So we connected over that. So I just thought what a small world that is, and for us to kind of connect on that level. And I haven't met him yet, but I gave myself a number to reach out, and I just think it's so cool. Like, yeah, the sports world is busy, and you may think, oh, this person's too big for me, but like, at the end of the day, you're all humans, and that's how you have to approach it. So I think it's cool how people rally behind you, and the love and support I got over the past week was just awesome to see.
Oh man, that's amazing. And with your blessing, I'm going to also leave the link for the fundraiser in the description, so that people
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and you brought this up, we were texting kind of in prep for this interview. Interested to hear your thoughts on some of the new NCAA legislation, some stuff that's on the horizon. You're in it, I coached for a few years in the NCAA, obviously was a student manager, but things are changing so quickly and so rapidly. The audience, everybody in the Mad Dogs Coaches Kennel needs to hear what's going on now and the thoughts from somebody that's kind of in the trenches, as you say.
Right, for sure. And I will say this, and I'll you can put this in the chat. I think it'll be helpful as well. If you haven't already, whether you want to go into coaching or administration, whatever the case is, in the sports industry, you need to subscribe to D1 Ticker. And what they do is they give you all breaking news that flows in and out, which nowadays is just every second you check your inbox. But they'll send emails out at 6:30 in the morning and then about 6 o'clock at night for 364 days a year, excluding Christmas Day, so tomorrow. And they just give you all the information you need to know from now till COVID to the NCAA to inequality, what's kind of going on, what athletic directors moving where, what search firms are doing what, how they're partnering with other people, stuff like that. So it kind of gives you all the information. So that's where I get all my info from. And then just other than that, like staying in touch with search firms, following them on social media, following D1 Ticker on social media, following athletic directors on social media, deputy athletic directors, like not just the top tier, because everybody can find different stuff. So I think staying informed in that, and like you have to stay up to date. So like if you can't adapt, you'll get beat out real quick. So NIL, obviously it's something very hard to understand, but different schools have different rules. Obviously Barstool came out with a thing at the beginning when NIL came a thing, but come to find out, like according to the NCAA, you can't actually be a member with them because you can't post your logo on stuff and be on your court or field. So that's like staying educated in that sense. I think it is very important. And also like college football is the moneymaker in college athletics. So if you look at everything that's happened in the past 6 months with like Texas and I think Oklahoma moving to the SEC for football reasons, obviously, and basketball has some implications in that as well. But football brings in so much money, and the alignment with the SEC. Obviously, the SEC is trying to draw away from the NCAA. So keeping that in perspective, the NCAA could be going out of business in the next 5 years. So I think that's important to know, but also to know like what's going wrong. Obviously, last March Madness, the NCAA got exposed, rightfully so, for inequality reasons in women's basketball and men's basketball. So I think it's important just to stay updated on that and just to know that like all these football coaches moving around, there's so much money involved in it now. Like football is directing college athletics, whether you like to believe it or not. So you'd be naive, whether you coach basketball, want to get into basketball or soccer, whatever, not to pay attention to it. So that's why I love to network with athletic directors, kind of pick their brain a little bit, different coaches, and like goes back to what we were saying earlier. You can learn from everybody. So you just have to stay up to date. And D1 Ticker does a fantastic job with that. And also, I would follow Collegiate Sports Associate. They just launched a new platform in part with D1 Ticker. So just kind of staying up to date with that. And I think it's very important because you have to stay educated.
Man, it's just a wealth of I mean, I'm gonna have so many links and Twitter handles down here for everybody to follow. Salute to you for all this stuff. I just want to open it up to you, man. Is there what other things that we haven't touched on, specifically talking to coaches that I know you're not quite there as far as a full-time assistant or head coach at the collegiate level, but you're on your way. Okay. There are a lot of people that haven't taken that step yet. What are some nuggets that you can drop that we haven't talked about that you feel like may help people that want to be in your shoes and beyond one day?
Right. Well, I think number one, going back to what you said earlier during the interview, like learning different softwares that you can. Obviously, Photoshop, social media has become big over the time. So I think learning that and just the Adobe software and bundle in general. And I know they have different, like if you're a college student, maybe for high school too, they have discounts too. And I think you can get Photoshop just for $9.99 a month. So like it may seem expensive, and it is for a college student when you look at it, but it's like worth the investment. Go on YouTube, look at it, learn it. I mean, I still don't know it, but I mean, I'm working at it. Learn iMovie, because if you have an Apple product, Apple computer, iMovie is free. So kind of learn that to cut up film. That's actually what I cut up film on. And then Synergy. Synergy is expensive. I don't pay for it. The program itself pays for it, but just kind of learn that and like learn it. Not every sports program or college program uses Synergy. So there's sports code and a couple of different other things. So just kind of staying up to date on all those. So like if you move schools or they switch platforms, like you're up to date and you can help already. And even like the simple stuff like Google Calendar, Zoom, stuff like that, you need to know how to use. So like when your coaches come to you, you can boom, get it to go. And like as a student, like you learn as much stuff. Like I didn't know how to do half this stuff, but my coach said, figure this out. And so I figured it out, made some phone calls, called those people. I knew they knew what they were doing. And I was like, hey, can you help me? And they were like, sure. And so I think that helps too. So I think that's a big thing too. And I think switching gears to like player development. So like your time as a manager, like technically you're not supposed to coach, but I mean, nobody's going to really know. So I know I really shouldn't say that, but I think that's your time too, to like, even if you're just rebounding for somebody, to like in your head, imagine drills and imagine, oh, how would I do this differently? Or if you're in the game, how would I draw that up? Or when you're watching games, and I'll never forget this. Ariema, I had the privilege of meeting him back in 2018, and he told me watch the game from a different perspective, and I think that stuck with me. And the fact that like you're not watching it as a fan. Sometimes I'll watch games as a fan, but you watch it as a coach. And so if this coach does this, well, that didn't work. So how are you going to run that differently when you become a head coach? Or this worked, so I'm gonna write it down, put it in my notes on my phone, and draw it up and go pitch it to my head coach or my assistant coach, whatever the case may be. So just kind of continuing to always learn, and I think that's a crucial part. And then watching press conferences too. That's one thing my head coach has told me very early on. Watching specifically, especially after the NCAA tournament, after you lose, because everything's so raw. Nobody wants to talk to the media because frankly, the media ask questions you don't want to answer. So like, how do they control their body language? What type of things do they do? You have some coaches that go on there, will slam stuff, but you also have some coaches that have been around the block for a while now, and they'll just go in there, answer your questions, and they'll actually give great insight, and it'll blow up on social media in 12 hours. So I think just learning from stuff like that and just following different people on social media. So I reach out to people. My major is communications. So I'll reach out to people that do graphic design stuff, do social media stuff. But also, I started broadcasting games for Longwood too on ESPN Plus because they needed it. So I'll reach out to broadcasters now. Some people are far fetched that I'll never ever get in touch with, but I think it's just if they answer, cool. So I think pulling from people's different perspectives aside from just basketball, like you can learn from everybody. You can learn from a football coach that's down the corner from you, and it's important to know everybody. My head coach told me this too, and I know this is a bit of a ramble, but when she got the head job at Longwood, she was at the Naval Academy, and our former athletic director knew one of the assistant football coaches there, and she didn't. Well, he called him. He walked down the office, sat in her office for about 2 minutes, said, "Okay, I'll put in a good word for you," and got on the phone with the athletic director, and she got the job. Like, so it's important to know everybody. I know everybody in our athletic department, every coach, everybody, but it's just not even that. It's just, I just want to meet them because I think it's cool. Like, I view everybody as a famous person because I just think it's cool. But also at the end of the day, when you're reaching out to people, like, everybody's a human being. So, like, cool, yeah, you may reach out to Tony Bennett, but like Tony Bennett's really not going to respond. I don't even think his email's on the website. So you want to network instead of at the top of the ladder, you want to network at the bottom of the ladder, because when you're out of college, those assistant coaches will be the ones looking for a head coaching job. So it's important to build those relationships with them instead of Tony Bennett, who has thousands and thousands of people in his network already.
Oh man, that's another nugget right there, ladies and gents. Coach R bringing the heat today. That's so true. You know, it's that
Right.
you never know where a young assistant, maybe at a low to mid major, is going to be, whether on the women's or men's side. And sometimes coaches will jump into the administrative side too, the administration.
Right.
So I think I know you're doing a really nice job of kind of putting your fingerprints all over the Longwood athletic department, not just the women's basketball program. I salute you for doing the games. I think you're doing a great job, the
I
broadcasting
appreciate
side.
it.
But really, to me, it's more your willingness to get out of your comfort zone, right? Like,
Right.
I know you can tell me whatever you want, but I guarantee you your heart was pounding, you know, when that mic, the red dot comes up, whatever it is, and we're live. You know, I think you did your
Yeah.
first game with Trey. I know you were with Sam maybe as well. So those guys are great. They're professionals. I learn from those dudes all the time. So for you to be able to do this stuff at 20 years old, man, I salute you. Just have a couple more things for you, Coach. First and foremost, what's going on for Christmas, man? What you asking for Santa?
um, Not much. Just got the family coming in town, so it'll be good to see them. But I mean, obviously, just spending time. Everybody is so busy now, and I leave the 26th to go back. So I think the more and more, like when you're younger, you're like, nah, I want to do basketball. Like I want to play high school basketball. But like when you get into college and you're on the road all the time, I think soaking up, like especially around the holidays, that and Christmas, like not a lot of programs get 5 days home. You might get like 2 days home,
Right.
if that. So I think that's important. So I think just spending time with them and just kind of hanging out, seeing my cousins that we don't really see a lot is important too. So I think that'll be fun. But yeah, and go at switching gears real quick before, I don't mean to cut you off, but to go back to that, I will say it is important. So like my aspirations is to be a head coach. So I obviously, if you're at a Power 5 school, it's different than a mid major, but helping out in every aspect of your athletic department is important. So you need to know how game operations works. You need to know if the director of athletic events, which is at our school, who lets the opposing teams in to shoot around. You need to get with them. You need to go sit in their office, and you need to be like, "I'll come help you." And then our director of athletic events just took a job at Brown, and so and the other guy lives an hour away and has a 2-month or a 15-year-old daughter, 15-month-year-old daughter excuse me. So like I'm gonna take over the women's side when they come to visit. So shoot arounds, like, and there's not a coach in the conference that I don't know because I reached out to them on purpose, knowing that they'd be the ones I can meet. So for me to be able to use that to network and business cards, I know we've talked about that a couple times, hand out business cards, do whatever you got to do to network, know how the administration side works, know how the SIDs communicate, know how game ops communicate, volunteer in game day operations in the fall and spring. Number one, because it's easy money for a college kid. Number two, it's important to know how they work, how they flow. When you become a head coach, obviously, university to university, it's different. So it's important to keep that perspective. But just every aspect in athletics is important to know. And I was joking real quick with our compliance director. I was like, your department's not the only one I haven't helped out with. And I said, I'm gonna come see you in the spring. She said, all right, come on. And so I was just joking with her, but I'm actually gonna come see her in the spring because I just want to learn about it. So I think as much as I personally don't like the NCAA, like I just want to learn about it, know how it works. And then so when I become a head coach, like I already have that step up. Like I took the initiative to work that, build my resume out, number one, and then have these other people in my corner to build true relationships with.
Man, you heard it here first, everybody. This is, there's not graduate school for coaching, right? And this all I'm trying to do is provide an outlet for people to learn things that wasn't really available when I was coming up. And Justin, you have provided so many, key pieces that if people can put that all together and paint a picture, they're lucky that they'd be very, very lucky to have a young career like you've started for yourself. So I can't tell you how impressed I am with you, the growth that you've shown over the last 2.5, 3 years since we first connected is incredible. I just can't wait to follow your journey, man. Obviously, I'm in your corner for forever and always, but moreover, we really appreciate you sharing your time today to help others, and I think you'd be amazed, man. I've probably had over 100 coaches reach out at different levels just from watching these little videos, and I'm not doing this to make money. All this is, we're just trying to help. And I know that's where your heart is. So I think we're connected on that level too. Always appreciate you. The one favor I would ask of you, my man, I'm the same way as far as I don't want to ask you anything for me. I want to ask, would you be willing, if anybody reaches out and they want to contact you through this platform, are you okay with possibly connecting and maybe mentoring some coaches?
Yeah, absolutely. Drop my Twitter, follow me on Twitter. And like I said, I always tell people just follow me on Twitter and then go through who I follow and follow those other people. And then feel free to just give out my school email. That's the best way to get a hold of me then, because text message, I won't really see it throughout the day. But yeah, feel free. I'd be more than happy to help other people. And I think for sure when this is up, send it my way for sure. I want to send it to a few people that I know that are aspiring coaches that hopefully it'll help. But for sure, anyone you feel that wants to reach out, definitely pass along my social media handles, email, whatever you got to do for sure.
Man, I appreciate you so much. This was great.
Absolutely.
I've learned a lot from you, and super proud of you. I got to tell you, man, I have a strong feeling, 3 months from now, you're going to be getting sized up for a Big South Conference championship ring. So
that's the goal. That's the goal. Got to be a High Point, Campbell. They're two big threats, but nothing we can't handle. So absolutely, and then
man.
hopefully see you at the Final Four. Women's Final Four. So hopefully we can all go out there this year and do that. But yeah, that's the goal. And good luck to everybody else the rest of the way.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. And if I don't see you in person before then, I'll see you on January 8th, getting that big win against Winthrop in Willett Hall. But thanks again so much, man. So impressed with you.
For sure. Absolutely. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas.
Hey, you too. All right, Coach.
Take care.
Bye.